could be argued that Slade's Merry Xmas Everybody invented the idea of a Christmas #1 in the UK, forever changing the concept of Christmas music. Before glam rock came about in the early 70s, Christmas songs were, well, a bit stale. It was all the old standards like Let It Snow, Winter Wonderland, or the Christmas song. But with acts like Wizzard, Mud, and Slade bringing elements of glam rock to the Christmas music scene, the genre of festive music was almost reinvented. And one song in particular stood out during this time of Christmas renaissance: Slade's Merry Xmas Everybody. It became the UK Christmas #1 on December 15th, 1973, and managed to stay there for 5 weeks, well past Christmas Day and into January. That's how much of an impact it had. And more than 50 years later, we still hear it all over the radio at Christmas time. It's actually one of the most commercially successful Christmas songs of all time. But amazingly, the song wasn't made as a quick cash grab designed by a panel of songwriters like you get with Christmas songs nowadays. Slade's tune came about more innocently. It's a story featuring a mother-in-law, John Lennon, and a quick shower. And if you love delving into music history like I do, make sure to subscribe and join our pack. Let's get things straight. In 1973, Slade was already one of the most popular groups in the UK. They had already achieved 5 #1 singles, including 2 that year: Come On Feel the Noise and Squeeze Me Please Me. Their manager and producer, Chas Chandler, encouraged the band to write and record a Christmas song. But most of the band were hesitant at this idea. They didn't think Christmas music was particularly cool. They didn't want to damage their reputation by releasing a Christmas song, so they put it off for a year. But Jim Lee, who co-wrote most of Slade's songs, eventually gave in because of one woman in particular: his mother-in-law.
We were sitting around the dinner table one Sunday, and I said, what about something like White Christmas? Bing Crosby's White Christmas? He gave me a withering look.
So she challenged Jim and said you'd never be able to write a song like White Christmas that stays around forever. So Jim accepted the challenge and came up with the bulk of the song's composition while taking a shower.
I got in the shower in the hotel and I decided I was going to write a song. Now, sometimes songwriters write songs by pretending to be other people, and I pretended I was Bob Dylan with this. And I went, where does everybody need to settle down? Because everybody wants to move around.
Now, for the verse melody, Lee remembered a song that Noddy Holder had discarded way back in 1967, in the band's early days. It was a song called Buy Me a Rocking Chair, and it was actually Noddy Holder's first solo composition. He had written it in a time of flower power, psychedelia, and albums like Sgt. Pepper, with the chorus being influenced heavily by Sgt. Pepper.
5 years before, Nod had played me a song. I'd only heard it once. And how I can do this, I really don't know. But anyway, it went like this. Buy me a rocking chair to watch the world go by. Buy me a looking glass, I'll look you in the eye.
So the chorus borrowed its melody from this early song, while the verses were made up of Jim Lee's new material. So at this point, Lee was onto something. He had the basic structure of the song down and phoned up Noddy Holder to convince him to get on board and help with this new Christmas song. Lee played it to Noddy and Noddy agreed. And Noddy only agreed because John Lennon had released a Christmas song a couple of years before, which made the idea of releasing festive music a bit cooler. Noddy told Big Issue in 2023, "So I went away to my mum and dad's, back into my old bedroom with a bottle of whiskey. And I wrote all the lyrics that night." And the lyrics to this song aren't just your typical Christmas for Christmas sake. The lyrics are much more deeper than that. They blended pure nostalgia with the modern spirit of Christmas. It included references to both classic and contemporary Christmas imagery. Does he ride a red-nosed reindeer? And what will your daddy do when he sees your mama kissing Santa Claus? And of course, the standout lyric, does your granny always tell you that the old songs are the best? then she's up and rock and rollin' with the rest. In a 2007 interview, Noddy Holder said this: "We decided to write a Christmas song and I wanted to make it reflect a British family Christmas. Economically, the country was up the creek. The miners had been on strike along with the gravediggers, the bakers, and almost everybody else. I think people wanted something to cheer them up, and so did I. That's why I came up with the line, 'Look to the future now, it's only just begun.' Once I got the line, 'Does your granny always tell you that the old ones are the best?' I knew I'd got a right cracker on my hands."
It had a warm, generous, comforting feeling, which is what everybody would want out of Christmas. But also at that time in England, there were a lot of strikes, a lot of people weren't at work, electricity was going off. It was a very dark, black time. It is definitely a song of hope because of look to the future now. It's only just begun.
So now they needed to record the song, and as is still the case today, most Christmas releases require months of advanced planning. During their summer tour of the east coast of the USA, the band made a stop in New York and booked studio time at the record plant. This is an iconic studio where the likes of Jimi Hendrix, the Eagles, and Fleetwood Mac had previously worked. John Lennon was working around the same time in the studio next door. He would have been working on his album Mind Games. Slade were actually able to use John Lennon's keyboards for their track. The keys in the intro of the song are from John Lennon's keyboard. How cool is that? Speaking of John Lennon, by the way, you could win an incredible, all-expenses-paid, Beatles-themed trip to Liverpool and London. The film Midas Man is getting a global release. This is the brilliant Brian Epstein biopic that came out this year. It was #1 on UK Amazon Prime, and it's now releasing to the rest of the world in 2025. So if you want to win that all-expenses-paid Beatles-themed trip to London and Liverpool, you can pre-order the film right now. Go to the link in the description to find out more.
How was that, Mr. Martin?
I think there's some promise.
Some promise.
Back to it then. The song took 5 days to record and the band were unhappy with the first version. This first version was missing something. It sounded too tight, too polished, almost. They needed a big, echoey sound. Lee told Record Mirror in 1984, "I said, what about the hallway downstairs?" And they went, "We can't use the hallway, there's all these businessmen walking through for the other offices." Anyway, we ran lines down to the hallway, and there we were in July singing "So Here It Is, Merry Christmas." And we were totally unknown over there, and people thought we were mad. With the song now recorded to Slade's satisfaction, their manager took the song back to London to their record company, Polydor. And the Polydor people instantly recognised it as a potential hit and put everything behind it. And they were right to do so, because even before its release, Merry Xmas Everybody had around 500,000 advance orders. Upon release, 350,000 copies were sold, making it Slade's 6th and final #1 single. To meet extraordinary demand for this record, Polydor had to utilise their French pressing plant to keep up with the demand, and it sold over 1 million copies. Suddenly, a battle for the UK #1 Christmas spot emerged. The first of its kind. It became a glam Christmas rock battle between Slade and Wizzard's I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. Slade's tune was the clear winner, and Wizzard had to settle for 4th place that year. Slade made history in 1973 as the first act to have 3 singles debut at #1 on the UK charts in the same year. To be clear, many bands, including the Beatles, for example, had 3 UK #1 singles in the same year. But what made Slade different is their songs had entered the chart at #1. The song stayed at #1 until mid-January and has continued to re-enter the UK charts year after year. It's fair to argue that the success of Merry Xmas Everybody, along with its head-to-head competition with Wizzard, helped popularise the race for the Christmas #1, turning it into a sort of British tradition. And Noddy Holder likes to call this song his pension, for good reason. It generates over £500,000 in royalties every year. Noddy would later say, "The success was absolutely phenomenal. We were doing TV all over Europe. We had 40 hits, but people only remember Merry Xmas Everybody now. We knew we'd got a hit record on our hands, but no way on earth did we think it would still be going strong 50 years later." Another glam rock tune that performed exceedingly well was Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me. But did you know the song came about by accident. You can click over there to watch my video all about that.